2 seconds to go. Puts it up and scores at the buzzer. Oh, the man is out on the field. That's another knockdown.
You know, Jim.
He got up. You believe in miracles? Yes.
You are now listening to the All Things Sport Podcast with your hosts, Damian Banks and Pierre Banks on Spreaker Radio. Fellas, you know what to do.
What's happening? What's up? What's going on? It's the All Things Sport Podcast, and I'm Damian Banks.
And I am a very excited Pierre Banks. Damian, we got 4 more days to Vegas, man. 4 more days to the Clave.
4 more days till you have to go to the Clave. 4 more days of waking up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning and changing Pampers for Damian Banks.
That's okay because I'm going to be outlandish for the both of us.
I'm sure you will. You are the definition of the OWTDOG.
I slowed down a lot since August 2nd, 2014. Shout out to my beautiful wife, Melody Banks.
You got to cop please. You got to do that. You got to cop those please before you go over there and catch a case.
What's going on with you, man? How's everything treating you?
Hey, man, another week, another episode of ATS, or the All Things Sport Podcast. I love to call it ATS, man. I love to give people nicknames. I love to give shows nicknames. So the nickname for the All Things Sport Podcast is ATS. Hashtag that, ladies and gentlemen. But to answer your question, I'm doing great. Another week of tremendous sports stories, another week of living life, another week of trying to make today and tomorrow better than yesterday was. How are things going on your end, Pierre?
It's going all right, man. A little busy, you know, with everything going on in the sports world, everything going on the home front. Apologies to the listeners for not getting the podcast out during its regularly scheduled time. And gotta apologize because for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be gone, man, and not on the podcast. So you will be treated to a full 60 minutes of King Jaffe Joffer.
To His Majesty King Joffrey Joffer, the Royal Palace, Zamunda.
Hey, stick a fork in them, Jaffe. The boys in love. Now, Pierre, why are you apologizing, man? We don't apologize. We like Beyonce. Sorry, I ain't sorry. Like you heard what B said. You heard what B said. I ain't sorry. Like no. I mean, things happen in life. You have to adjust. You have to call an audible. You have to draw up a game-winning play in the timeout. And you know the listeners, they're loyal, so they're gonna check in on us. They're gonna make sure that we put out quality work, and we do just that. We put out quality.
That's right. But I'm pretty excited about today's show. So many hot topics going on. Of course, we're bringing back the oldie but goodie, bruh, for real, and they say you got a pretty good one coming up for us.
My bruh for real has to be the best of all time thus far. The podcast is not a year old yet, but to date, this will be the best bruh for real in the All Things Sport Podcast history.
Looking forward to your bruh for real, man. Gonna get into a little MLB today. Gonna talk a lot about the ESPY's powerful message from some of the sport's biggest stars, that sport being the NBA.
Also, we're going to be talking about Deflategate. Tom Brady and Deflategate.
It's back.
It's back, ladies and gentlemen. The story that will never die. It's the vampire of sports stories. It never dies, man. So we're going to be talking a little bit about Deflategate. Like you said, Pierre, we're going to talk about Major League Baseball. Pretty dope show, if you ask me, man. The All Things Sport Podcast, we strive to give you quality, top-notch radio podcast. And without further ado, Pierre,
The All Things Sport Hot Topic.
First hot topic of the show, gotta start with ESPN's ESPYs. Now, the ESPYs is an annual award show that ESPN gives. It gives awards throughout the season, throughout the year, various sports, NFL, NBA, baseball. They give a Arthur Ashe Courage Award. Give a they talk about the Jimmy V Foundation, things like that, man. But you know what I want to speak on with the ESPYs this year, man, with everything that's going on, especially recently in America, man. It feels like America is becoming divided, man. You got the Dems and the Republicans. You got the conservatives and the liberals, man. Black, white, Spanish,
Asian,
people who, practice Islam. Everyone seems to be dividing, man. LeBron James, the most hated. LeBron James, his guys, his friends, Carmelo Anthony, CP3, Chris Paul, and Dwayne Wade gave a pretty poignant plea to their fellow athlete, to America, to do better, man, to do better in your community, to come together, to stop the senseless violence, to just become better humans, man. And I love the fact that they did this. They weren't thinking about their endorsement deals. They weren't thinking about public backlash. This was coming from the heart. And, they have a platform. They have a voice. And the NBA, like no other sport, Pierre, the superstars control the sport. And no bigger superstars in the NBA right now than LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Melo, CP3. So when they speak, their fellow athlete, kids will listen. Not since the days of Jim Brown and Muhammad Ali, Kareem, Billie Jean King, athletes who spoke up for social injustices and tried to make things better, and not only in their sporting world, but in the world in general. Athletes don't really do that anymore. It's all about their brand. They don't want to tarnish their brand. They don't want to do anything that stops the dollars from rolling in. But in today's age of social media, Twitter, Facebook, Facebook Live, all that stuff, man, they have a voice. And they chose to use the ESPYs as a platform to have their voices heard. And I salute and commend those guys for doing just that.
Yeah, it was a beautiful moment, not only for the world of sports. It was not only a beautiful moment for athletes, for young people everywhere, but it was a beautiful moment for our entire nation. There's been a lot of things going on, and a lot of people say that there's a lot of things going on right now, but these things have been happening for hundreds of years. But it's just now everyone has a smartphone. Everyone has video capability to where they can record it, and social media just puts it out, and things become firestorms within minutes, within days. So, all over the country, all over the world, because it's happening here and the conversation begins here, but they're talking about it on the BBC. They're talking about it over in Great Britain. They're talking about it over in France, all over Europe, all over the world, really. So these things have been happening, and it is great to see gentlemen with such a platform that those four gentlemen have be able to stand on that platform and not only talk about the social injustice of black people here in America, but to talk about all people here in America losing their lives and the violence that's going on. And, it was a beautiful moment. I commend those guys, and shout out to Steph Curry, who, when he won his first award at the ESPYs, pay homage to those four guys and congratulated them for doing what they did. Very classy move. Got a lot of respect for Steph Curry, man. And he is, he's growing on me. Steph Curry is definitely growing on me, but salute to Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, Dwayne Wade, and of course LeBron James for bringing that very poignant message to the masses.
Yeah, I'm not even going to speak about the ESPYs on who won what award, too much. Not going to speak on it too much because that's what I took away from the award show. Very powerful statement made by those four guys. And again, man, they took a risk. And the risk being they could lose their endorsement deals. They could lose, some sponsors could back away from them because, in this world, man, more than anything, money talks, man. But they saw a opportunity, they being Bron, Melo, D Wade, and CP3, they saw an opportunity to use their platform to get their voices heard, to get a message out that needs to be orated, that needs to be, given to the masses. And, what better place and way to do it than on national television, ABC, in front of the whole world. It was sort of like the president, Barack Hussein Obama, giving a State of the Union, because, people in America, we love our sports, and a large majority of the country was watching the ESPYs,
and they did it at the top of the show so everybody could see it.
Right. So they didn't do it in the middle. They didn't do it at the end. They did it at the very beginning. So whether you agree with their message or not, you have to commend those guys for at least speaking up, for at least trying. Now, the next thing is, what is their next action? What are you going to do now? Are you going to go into your communities and try to lend your monetary and your time in your communities, trying to make things better in the community? What is the next step for those four guys? They called their fellow athletes to action. What is the next step? I am anxious to see the next thing that happens. What will be the follow-up to that historic moment at the ESPYs?
Yeah, and those four guys, they do a lot for the community already, and speaking out and trying to go in and uplift their respective communities. Now, on the flip side of that, you have Browns running back Isaiah Crowell, who used his social media platform in a very distasteful and incorrect way. Now, he posted a picture to his Instagram, which appeared to show a man slashing the throat of a police officer. And there are ways to express your anger. Nobody is really happy with the current situation, with the way things have been in the past until now. But that's not the way to get your point across. We don't want any more lives lost than have already been lost. We're not saying retaliation needs to happen. We're just saying justice needs to happen. And that's not necessarily the way to go about it. If you're Isaiah Crowell, he since apologized and understands the insensitivity that he showed with that post. And, I can understand the anger from not only Isaiah Crowell, but people all over the country. But, there are ways to go about it, and that's not one of them.
Yeah, Pierre, I did see that story about Isaiah Crowell and the policemen threatening to take away their services at Cleveland Browns games because of the Instagram post that Crowell had put up. And it just goes to show you, man, the power that athletes have. And it goes to show you that, don't ever post a Facebook post or tweet in anger. Don't ever be emotional and go on social media, because it will come back and bite you in the butt
every time.
I think Isaiah Crowell is going to learn a valuable lesson from that. But again, man, I understand his anger. I just don't agree with the way he went about it, man. You got to try to get things done in this world when you disagree with something, and there's ways to go about it. You have to be strategic in your actions, and that was not a strategic move by Crowell. But what LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, and CP3 did, magnifique.
And then you have in Minnesota, following the death of another young black man by a police officer, Philando Castile, the Minnesota Lynx came out in warm-ups with Black Lives Matters t-shirts. Now, the police officers that work security for those games took exception to this and, walked out and vowed to not request to work Minnesota Lynx games again. And I don't understand the clash between Black Lives Matters and everything else, the All Lives Matters hashtags and all those sorts of things. I don't think that when people say Black Lives Matter, they mean that they're the only lives that matters. I think they mean that there are a great number of black lives being lost, unarmed black lives being lost, at the hands of police, and they should be treated with the same respect as every other life. So essentially, Black Lives Matter means that all lives matter. It just means that Black lives matter just as much as your life.
I couldn't have said it any better, Pierre. I mean, it seems to be a clash right now. If you have a Black Lives Matter t-shirt, if you use the hashtag, you could lose friends, behind that. And people, I'm a black man. my life matters. I'm not saying that your life doesn't matter. Of course it does. Every life matters. But we're just trying to call attention to the injustices that are going on with this particular group of people, which are black people. You know, we're not saying that no one else's lives matters. I mean,